It's been a while since I've played, 2023 to be exact, and the game has been overhauled quite a bit. I mean, there's even smooth walking built in now. But with Lords of the Fallen 2 happening soon, at the very least within the next century, that means it is time to do another challenge run in preparation. Also, RIP to any feet folks out there. Looks like the second game is going to be a bit more hands-on. So starting things off, we're going with the Condemned class, which we pick at our own risk. That means we have buckets for weapons, and our hopes and dreams as our armor. As for the modifiers, we are going with randomized loot, we are going with randomized enemies, we are going with increased enemy density, because why the hell they nerfed that in the first place, I don't know, and we're going with withered healing. So all healing that we receive is of course withered, and we need to actually deal damage to get that. We'll leave it on no vestige decay for now, and that is us ready to go. So let's get started. Another rule for this run is that I must use the first weapon I pick up. If I don't have the stats, then I have to use the buckets until I have the stats, and the overall goal for the run is I must beat the game. Absolute banger of a goal, I know, but I ran into something completely unexpected during the run, but I'll get into that later on. The weapon for this run was quite literally the first item we picked up. The first item you can pick up in the game, highly convenient, and we got the Reject's Blade. Not sure if it's trying to tell me something, but I'll just ignore that because ignorance is bliss. We only need 11 agility to use them, so for now we can just make our way through the very first area, get some souls, yes I know it's called vigor, but it'll always be souls to me, level up our agility, and equip the weapon that'll have to get us through the entire game. Now the Reject's Blade isn't great. It's fast, yes, but has terrible range, no status build-up, and even fully upgraded only lands on B scaling, so it's definitely an improvement over the Broken Sword, but that bar was pretty low to beat. Also on a side note, the buckets, yes, the broken buckets we start with are actually better than the Reject's Blade. That's some hard wood. The first boss, of course, is Otto, a good test to see if my muscle memory after 3 years has still got it. Yep. Still got it. But that was just a momentary setback. Our rejected blades did deal with Otto. I prefer to not fight the Light Reaper in a small arena with no upgrades, so I just stared directly into the Nazgul's eyes to establish dominance. Very similar to a deer in the headlights. It worked great. Our next objective is the first beacon. To get there, we must get through 5 bosses. Once again, we have a weapon that has absolutely no range, which means the first target on our list, Pietà the Claymation, is going to feel the full force of our wrath on her booty. Because it's the only spot in her hitbox we can consistently reach, I swear. Looking as bloody as ever, we may lack range, but we do have speed, and that is why I do particularly like dual-wield builds. Fast attacks are my bread and butter, or to be a bit healthier, my cigar and crack. Still a very cool fight against Pietà. I do think it's a cool first boss for the game. We do get confirmation that she is indeed still a lovely claymation, and with her out of the way, we have access to Skyris Bridge, and of course the flowing rivers of blood. That is her healing. Next up on our list are the sisters, the Scream Sister and the G Sister. Now that sounds like quite the combination, I know, but it just makes sense. Trust me, not the worst randomized bunch of enemies in the first area. The Frost dudes were a bit annoying, but luckily they are slow. You just gotta remember they do have ranged slam attacks. They were paired with the Flame Wizards from the Castle Bramus area, which was a bit more annoying anytime trying to use the Vestige. They said no. I do feel like this randomized seed has gifted me plenty of ranged enemies, which I'm totally happy about. You can just hear it in my voice. But Frost Dudes and Flame Wizards, it's like pairing Deep Heat and Deep Freeze, not advisable, especially as lubrication. But it's time we get to the Fatherland's smithy, so let's deal with the Scream Sister. Delphine, still looking as good as ever, loud as ever, vindictive as ever, just like your ex after a few drinks. But she wasn't much trouble at all for our rejection philosophy. I did actually remember to not get myself blown up by the umbral explosions when dealing with the Parasite. Usually I don't avoid that, but we put Delphine to sleep and then encountered the most accurate soldier ever. Dude is out here thinking he's Captain America, and I mean with a throw like that, you can't really argue with his ability. We find Gerlinda and Sparky, freeing her to get an exchange of services. Smithy services. Our next target is close by, and that's the G-Sister. Why is she called the G-Sister? I know what you're thinking. I know what kind of man you are. Her name starts with a G. Luckily, with an upgraded weapon, we dealt with her quickly, whereas usually it's a lot of running around the arena with a useless weapon to get in the occasional hits while dodging the Get Down Mr. President dogs. Next boss and target on our list is literally right around the corner, the Pound of Flesh. So let's go show them our Pound of Flesh. Now the camera is of course a bigger issue in this fight, so it's just pray and roll and hope it works, but after the first few areas and boss fights, the biggest challenge in this run isn't the weapon we're forced to use, it isn't the randomized enemies and loot, nor is it the original enemy density, which is what I'm used to anyway. No, it's the withered healing modifier. It is absolutely bloody horrendous. I'm almost at the point where I don't even really feel like it's worthwhile healing most of the time, besides in the boss fights, because with so many enemies and randomized enemies, particularly the ranged buggers, my withered health just disappears as soon as it appeared. It is truly quite the modifier, but while I was pondering the withered healing modifier, we did manage to beat the pound of flesh, which means we can make our way into the swamps. Now heading into the swamp area, I was expecting it to be a lot worse, but overall it was actually quite a pleasant experience. Swamp and pleasant don't usually belong in the same sentence unless you're Shrek or Miyazaki, but the randomized enemies here were less annoying than the usual bunch, so I'll take that as a win. I even made a quick stop to say hi to the Mr. Easter Island head, because it's been ages since I fought this boss, even when I was playing the game years ago. But having had enough of this area, I made my way to the one and only silent Gyobu Masataka Oniwa, the hushed saint, still just silently chilling around the beacon. He didn't give me much trouble at all, pretty easy boss for me, but there are a few bosses that I'm not looking forward to, especially with the randomizer in place, because going into this, I had no idea if the bosses would be randomized, or if the bosses that have ads with them would be randomized. Newsflash, the bosses aren't randomized. But as for the ads with the bosses, that I am still yet to discover. Why, game? Why give him those enemies? But with Gyobu dealt with, we can cleanse the first beacon, making our moth buddies super happy that we've brought them to a lovely light source. Our first objective is completed, one of 5 bloody beacons. The next beacon is actually quite far away, so this does mean a list of bosses we have to deal with to get there. So let's get started. We head for the Gorge of Roy Boy. Roy Boy's Gorge. No, that doesn't sound right. But there is a side boss here, and since loot is random, I'm taking the time to make stops at the side areas, more so than in previous runs, so we can make a super heroic brave run straight to the boss, the Crimson Rector. Any naming suggestions for Crimson? Leave them in the comments. But not much to say about the boss really, just make sure you don't allow them to start their healing ability and you'll be fine. But finishing up here, I ran into my least favorite enemy in the game. Beamer bitches. No, not beamer bitches. Beamer bitches. Spamming their ranged attacks, healing mechanic, bleed water. I just really don't like these enemies, but we survived and made our way down to the bridge for our next mini-boss fight. This whole pathway and sequence is just mini-boss alley, Crimson on the side, Runa on the bridge, and Sauron's #1 fan right before entering the city of Kelrath. I did get a rune here that we could socket into our rejection blades, which I got super excited about, but that was short-lived because it did absolutely nothing. The scaling didn't improve at all, it just mocked me. But we must continue, and the only boss here is the most disturbing boss in the game, the doll player, the Spurned Progeny. Not a difficult fight, but a tedious one, having to wait for the attack openings and for them to just casually stroll their way around the arena. But with enough rejection stabs in key critical locations like the hands and feet, we were victorious. You might think there's better places to attack, but try to win a fight after getting shanked multiple times in the hands and feet. Go on. I'll wait. Not that easy, huh? We also found the Princess's Sting here, which is really awesome because we can have a bit more damage now out of our blades, and since we're really low equip load, it's the perfect necklace for us. I don't know the exact calculation, nor do I really care, but more damage equals good, and that's good enough for me. We planted our seed, but the HOA didn't like that, so we couldn't actually use it. This is becoming a common occurrence, so we just booked it towards the mine because mines are always safe places. At least if you have a canary with you. But speaking of the mine, this does give us 2 directions. Option 1, to go deeper, or option 2, to go higher. There's an innuendo there, I know it. Upwards we go, but we gotta get past the Skin Lover first, which is never a difficult fight. Literally just dodge to the right all the time and you're golden. Also another mini-boss. Finally, up to the top we go. There isn't a boss guarding this beacon. Maybe at one point there was, and they just said, bugger this and left. Honestly, probably a really smart decision. Our moths aren't complaining either. They get to consume another light source, and we finally have another beacon done. I like being able to check things off the list. But next, we have a decision to make. 2 locked doors, one leading to the land of Frost, and the other leading to the land of Beamer Bitches. So I'll take the Frost one, although I quickly regretted this decision. For this beacon, there are only 2 bosses in our way. Remember when I said I wasn't sure if the randomizer would affect ads in the boss fights? Well, Folard is usually easy, but the randomizer decided to give Folard 2 snake medusas, which of course are still protected by the parasite as well. So not only are we slowed in the water, we must get the parasite destroyed while dodging the ranged attacks of the archers, Folard's ranged frost slams, and try our best to stay alive because if we go umbral, well then Mr. Easter Island Head shows up as well. This fight was terrible. It took me 3 tries, but it was terrible. For some reason, I do far better in Umbral than in the regular realm. It's like I only lock in once I'm in Umbral. I'm an Umbral boy, I guess. But getting through this fight, I was immediately fearing for my controller's life because my least favorite fight in the game is the bird who just sits there. But since the randomizer gave Furlord random adds, I was hoping and praying that it wouldn't do the same for the bird. That would make or break the run for me. Luckily, it didn't, which I was pleased about, but I still had to deal with this absolute pile of a boss. I'm not spending any more time here than needed, stabbed its eye, moved on to the beacon, the moths were at least happy, and we can leave this accursed place and go to Beamer Bitch territory, which hopefully has far less beamers due to the randomizer. Before getting there though, we do have some work to do because we have to get the key for the door and then make our way through mini-boss Bellboy, which was fine, no issues there, and then get to the tower of Fred's people. Who is Fred? Fred is a good friend, but he's dealing with some issues, we'll check in on him later. Although with everything being randomized, Fred probably won't be there. Also, before reaching the tower, there's another mini-boss fight, which isn't an issue, the Abiding Defenders. Just make sure to get both health bars down low before finishing one boss off, because if you don't, well then the other one gets mad, performs some resurrection magic, and you're in for a prolonged fight. Ask me how I remembered the mechanic, but the Abiding Defenders are quickly dealt with, they're slow and telegraphed, and they do kind of take turns. So, that's nice at least. Beating them grants us the key we need and a fight against Sinisho, another mini-boss. The dude is locked out of the tower because of reasons. I mean, the reasons are actually pretty obvious. We make a quick work of Sinisho and then make sure he doesn't enjoy his Lazarus moment. And then we must go up to go down because in the depths of the tower is Professor Quirrell practicing his arts and crafts. Tancred isn't a particularly hard boss, quite telegraphed, and it's just another case of dodge to the right and you should be fine. But he does have a second phase, his brother, who is understandably locked away from the public eye. Can't really argue with the decision-making process here. Dude has some clear demons inside. They were best locked away. Reginald? Is that his name? You know what? It is now. Reginald is very sporadic, but much like Vort of the Boreal Valley, just try to stay underneath. Not exactly a pretty sight, I know, but it's a safe spot for the most part. He likes jumping around the place and spewing lava everywhere. Clearly, he's been spending time with Quelag, but our rejection blades are used to dealing with bosses at this point, and we defeat Reggie as well. With the brothers dealt with, we got the key we needed to go back up the tower. The elevator confused me for a moment because clearly I don't read signage, but I eventually figured it out, and the moths got their next meal. One more mini-boss stands in our way, the Uber Beamer Bitch Ursula. Exactly the same as the rest, annoying, but we aren't wasting time here. Highly aggressive tactics worked well, and we can move on. Now at this point I was a bit fatigued, so I literally just booked it. Channeled my inner Monty Python, my inner Forrest Gump, and just ran. Got to the flower spot, and then went and ignored the signage once again to not touch demonic artifacts or forbidden realms, realized the Iron Wayfarer was not coming to help me, so had to deal with the Huntress by myself. But we do get to keep the artifact ourselves, so you know, it's a positive, I guess. Finding ourselves in the Imperium, I was happy to find that there were no Beamer Bitches here. However, we got a like-for-like replacement because we got the Flame Dudes instead, with their long-range flame attacks, but still nowhere near as annoying as the Beamers. But we're here for one reason and one reason only, the Judge herself, looking lovely as ever, although let's not kid ourselves, we know what hideous beast lurks beneath the makeup. You may fool us for now, but as soon as the beer wears off, exposed you shall be. The fight does have really awesome music, which still reminds me of Ori. Is it just me? I swear it sounds oddly similar to one of the tracks from that game, but the two phases are pretty much identical. One phase with the holy status, the other with the flame status. I do find the flame version a bit easier. The holy one just annoys me a bit with all the raining arrows and random holy explosions. Interestingly, the Judge is a boss that you don't actually kill because she's just chilling afterwards, still alive. Yes, I know she's part of the Chaos ending, but technically still alive here in the others, and they never did add any DLC in regards to her, so maybe we shall get some answers in the next game as to what happens with her. But the moths do their thing like always, and we have one final location to get to. Our list is looking really good at this point. Once again, the Nazgul stands in our way, an extremely persistent bugger. The main pathway is of course now blocked, and it took me a moment to remember how the hell to actually get back to Kelrath, but a quick trip to Skyrest and we're on our way to the Nazgul that now has an annoying parasite protecting them. I forgot this as well, died, dealt with the parasite, and then dealt with the Nazgul. Was the parasite really necessary? It really doesn't add anything to the fight, it's just an arbitrary frustration mechanic, but still a pretty fun fight. I do enjoy most of the bosses in Lords of the Fallen, besides the damn bird and the mini-boss alleyways, but There aren't really that I absolutely hate having to do, which I'd say is a pretty good thing. Some games are the complete opposite, with only 1 or 2 enjoyable boss fights, but with the Light Reaper dealt with, we can begin our gauntlet of NPC fights. I was expecting Andreas, but he decided not to mess with me this playthrough. I guess I didn't progress his quest enough. The Iron Wayfarer only had his 1 hammer version, obviously because I took the demonic artifact for myself. I'm learning so much this run. And then Damaros was the usual fight, but with NPCs out of the way, there's only one thing left standing in our way. The Boomer Bitch. Of course, the randomizer would put one right at the end, in an unavoidable pathway. I mean, come on. That was premeditated, Your Honor. But the fight against the king, dude, really does give us a chance to just bugger off, but our character is just very persistent, so we kind of do force this fight on ourselves. We could literally just go around and straight to the Rogar realm, but no, we don't. Probably my favorite fight in the game. For some reason, his spiky arm attacks really gave me trouble this time. No idea why I took an unnecessary amount of damage from those attacks just by themselves. Of course, he has his other moves, his super dope explosion and slam attack, but we got through him with our rejection blades. Now, dealing with the king typically is the final fight, because the fight against the deer can't really be considered a fight. But remember when I said I ran into something unexpected? Yeah. Who the hell is this? Eidolon of Adir. I don't even know who you are. That's what I get for not playing for 3 years. So I guess there is actually a final boss fight against the deer now, instead of random ads that you have to kill, which in the randomizer could have turned into an absolute hellfest. But this does mean I have a new boss to learn. Honestly, wasn't really that bad. He's fast, he has a ton of attacks, but his attacks don't really hit that hard. If they did, it would be a complete different story. I realized they were parasites, so I destroyed those. I assume it's a very bad time if you don't do that, but he still gets his second full health bar. But I also found out that he seems to be very weak against wither damage. So some wither salts, definitely putting in the work here and helping our rejects blades out, but it went far better than expected. Got him on about the 3rd attempt, but definitely a cool boss, much better than before, but I suppose that was also a very low bar to pass. But as usual, the moths get their reward, devour a god, so clearly they don't just want a light source. Good thing they're on our side, but that is the challenge run completed. Overall, the withered health was the most challenging aspect of this run. If there's any other runs you'd like to see, then leave them in the comments and I'll check through those. There's a bunch of other modifiers and combinations that we could do as well. I know there's the Iron Man one, but life's too short for permadeath runs. That just ain't my cup of tea. I choose to not hate myself that much. But thanks so much for watching. Thanks for the support on the previous videos as well. I wasn't expecting them to do as well as they have, considering most have moved on from Lords of the Fallen. But anyway, I'm just rambling now. I'll see you in the next one. Maybe I'll do a Dark Souls 2 challenge run. Ladle, anyone?